what you're worth. Now go out and get what you're worth.
I'm gonna show you how great I am.
Welcome to the Steel City. Is everybody ready to go? It's we're playing the greatest radio show. Cella and Johnny parlay with the facts. So relax, grab a drink, then let's kick back.
Welcome, fans, to our running back segment of The Spread. I am your host, Jim Cella, sitting in again with JDash. He's putting in a lot of hard work this week with Parlay not showing up.
Keep trucking.
Do it all day. Let's talk about some of these running backs you got.
Tier 1, the elite running backs. As usual, DeMarco Murray, Le'Veon Bell, Marshawn Lynch, Matt Forte, Giovanni Bernard, Jamal Charles, Arian Foster, and LaShawn McCoy, who is on a bye this week.
As a Steeler fan, I might have to say Foster's probably the best pick out of that because our defense has been horrendous this year, and he really could gouge us up the middle, and we always give up passes to running backs that know how to catch the ball, so he could end up having a huge game against Pittsburgh.
And let's not forget, DeMarco Murray's going for a record, 7 straight games with 100 yards. He's the number 1 running back in fantasy, and how can you not go with him?
Dude's beast this year.
Tier 2, must starts right now. I have 2 of them. Fred Jackson for sure. He's a consistent 15 points a week. And Ahmad Bradshaw.
Ahmad Bradshaw and Fred Jackson, both really good plays, both playing good football. I may have to go with Fred Jackson, though. I hear a lot of rumblings out of Buffalo that C.J. Spiller may be traded before the trade deadline, so I think they're leaning more towards Jackson, and he might get way, way more carries.
Yeah, he's not a buy low candidate, but he's a get now if you can candidate. And Ahmad Bradshaw, he's getting it done in the passing game, and I love Indy's passing game, so I keep playing Ahmad Bradshaw. Tier 3 here, Andre Ellington, Ben Tate, Eddie Lacy, Brandon Oliver, and Justin Forsett.
I'd maybe go Eddie Lacy. He's going up against Carolina. The Steelers gouged Carolina for over 200 yards when they played them. Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to have to be throwing the ball 50 times a game if he doesn't have to. They really like Lacy up in Green Bay, and he could get a lot of touches.
With Carson Palmer back, I like Andre Ellington at Oakland. They let up the 7th most of fantasy running backs, and he's used heavily in the passing game already. Without Palmer, he's been putting up points every week, and I expect it to keep happening, and this is a great matchup for him. Tier 4 here, we have Lamar Miller, Reggie Bush, and Jerick McKinnon.
I know you love McKinnon, and we both like Bush, but, I may go Miller here. I know Sean's out for the rest of the year. I forget what injury exactly he had. But Miller's definitely going to be getting all the touches now down in Miami, and they're looking to turn the ball over a lot less, so they may be handing him the ball a lot more.
Yeah, I really like Miller now with no Moreno in the mix. Reggie Bush is coming back from an injury. It looks like he'll play versus New Orleans, who is not a good defense, so I like him. And Jerick McKinnon, he's the starting running back in Minnesota now. Asiata is expected to get more snaps, but Jerick McKinnon's the better running back, and I'd like him weekly in fantasy now. Tier 5 here. Frank Gore, Alfred Morris, Joyke Bell, and Jeremy Hill.
Gore scares me a little bit. Hyde's taking some carries away from him, so the guy I may go with would be Morris. Cousins is turning over the ball at almost a record pace for Washington, so if they were smart, they'd definitely just start running the ball a lot more, and that could benefit Morris and any fantasy owner who has him.
Indy's really good against the pass, and since he's going to have trouble passing, if you ask me this week, Sanu might not have the biggest game, but Jeremy Hill and Giovanni Bernard should both have decent games. I like Jeremy Hill this week. Indy lets up the 9th most to running back, so they are a good defense, but they do let up rushing yards. Tier 6 here, Andre Williams from the Giants, Ronnie Hillman, Mark Ingram, Anton Smith from the Falcons, Pierre Thomas, and Trent Richardson.
I'd maybe go with Ronnie Hillman for Denver. He had 100 yards last week on 24 carries with Monty Ball being out. Denver has a high-powered offense, and they got San Francisco coming to town. San Fran puts up points on their own offense, so they might want to control the clock a little bit more, so they might run it more.
I really like Anton Smith. At Baltimore, they let up the 3rd fewest points, so I have him somewhat low on our list, but he's putting up points every week. He's a better running back than Steven Jackson. At some point, the Falcons have to realize this. At least pick up Anton Smith and stash him on your bench. If you really need him this week, play him, but later in the season, I think he's going to get more playing time, so I like him. Tier 7, Jonathan Stewart, who is returning this week most likely, Darren McFadden, and Bishop Sankey.
I don't know. Bishop Capo Sankey, he has solid 18 carries last week and definitely going to be getting more carries as the season moves on. Tennessee's offense is struggling to find an identity. Ken Wisenhunt's definitely the coach that can help them along the way. He was a high pick, man, so they're going to start giving him the ball and wanting him to produce more.
Darren McFadden's been a pretty good backup running back for fantasy owners this season. I wouldn't call him a starter, but he has a brutal matchup this week going up against Arizona, who lets up the fewest points against fantasy running backs, and it's going to be a tough week for him. Tier 8, Roy Halu Jr., CJ Spiller, Bernard Pierce, and Zach Stacy.
I don't know. I think the Zach Stacy matchup against Seattle is one of the toughest of the season. Stacy only had 19 carries the last 2 games. Seattle's a really, really tough defense against the run. They give up the 12th fewest points, for fantasy running backs. So that's really, really going to be a tough matchup for Stacy.
Roy Halu Jr.'s flown under the radar. He's being used in the passing game, and the Redskins pretty much have to pass. I don't like Alfred Morris. That's why he's so low on my list, even though he should get the bulk of the load this week. But Halu's the one that's used in the passing game, and he's been getting it done every week, so he's a good fill-in. One stash we have here is Trey Mason. Zach Stacy looks terrible this year. Trey Mason made his NFL debut. He had 5 carries for 40 yards. If you're in a really, really deep league and looking for running backs, maybe stash him and we'll see what happens.
Well, that wraps up our running back segment for the spread this week in fantasy football. Thanks, Dash, for sitting in. Fantasy owners, you can follow us on Twitter at bet_the_spread. Ask us any questions you want on Facebook, and tune into our YouTube channel, The Spread, and subscribe. Everybody have a good night.